The sun set over Washington, D.C., casting long shadows across the White House, where President Donald Trump was about to sign one of the more contentious executive orders of his second term. The Oval Office was tense, the air thick with the anticipation of an international backlash. Trump, flanked by his closest advisors, was about to sanction officials of the International Criminal Court, an action that would ripple through international legal circles and diplomatic relations. Today, we take a stand against those who would undermine our sovereignty, our allies, and our constitutional rights, Trump declared, his voice firm as he signed the executive order. This wasn't just any policy decision. It was a clear message to the world. The United States, under his leadership, would not bow to what he described as an overreach by an institution without legitimate jurisdiction over American or Israeli affairs. The International Criminal Court, based in The Hague, had recently issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, over alleged war crimes in Gaza. This move by the ICC was seen by the Trump administration as an attack not only on Israel, but on the U.S. itself, given the close ties between the two nations. Trump's order targeted ICC officials involved in these investigations, including potential asset freezes and travel bans for them and their families. This isn't just about Israel, Trump continued. It's about any nation, any people, who fall under the shadow of this court's unjust and politically motivated actions. We will not allow our soldiers, our officials, to be harassed by those who do not recognize our laws or our rights. The implications of this action were immediate and far-reaching. Around the globe, reactions varied from staunch support to vehement opposition. Allies of the U.S., particularly those not signatories to the Rome Statute, expressed solidarity, seeing it as a defense of national sovereignty. However, a majority of ICC member states, including key U.S. allies like the UK, Germany, and France, condemned the sanctions, arguing they undermine international justice and the fight against impunity for war crimes and crimes against humanity. In The Hague, the ICC issued a statement decrying the sanctions as an attack on its independence and impartiality, vowing to continue its judicial work despite the pressures. The court stands firmly by its personnel and pledges to continue providing justice and hope to millions of innocent victims of atrocities across the world, the statement read, emphasizing the ICC's role as a court of last resort when national courts are unable or unwilling to prosecute. The debate over the ICC's jurisdiction and the legitimacy of its actions has been long-standing, especially in the U.S., which has never ratified the Rome Statute. Critics of Trump's move argue it's a dangerous precedent, potentially isolating the U.S. from international legal cooperation and sending a message that the nation places itself above international law. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., another battle was brewing. One that was just as emblematic of Trump's approach to governance. His administration was attempting to restructure or reduce the size of federal agencies, a promise from his campaign trail aimed at what he called draining the swamp. The latest target was the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, one of the world's largest humanitarian aid organizations. Trump's plan was to put nearly 2,700 USAID employees on administrative leave, effectively dismantling the agency to start anew or reduce its role significantly. However, this plan hit a judicial wall. A federal judge issued a temporary injunction against the move, siding with government workers' unions, who argued that the president's actions overstepped his authority, infringing on the separation of powers. The courtroom was packed, the tension palpable, as the judge announced, "This court finds that there is a likelihood of irreparable harm to the plaintiffs, the employees of USAID, should this plan proceed without further legal scrutiny." The injunction meant that USAID would continue its operations, at least for the time being, while the courts deliberated on the broader constitutional questions at play. This legal challenge was part of a broader narrative where the Trump administration's policies were being contested not just on policy grounds, but on constitutional ones. The unions argued that only Congress has the authority to make such sweeping changes to federal agencies, not the executive branch through unilateral executive orders. The administration's response was swift and defensive. "This is about making government more efficient, more accountable to the American people," said a White House spokesperson. "We will continue to fight for reforms that ensure taxpayer money is spent wisely and not on bloated bureaucracy." But the legal battles didn't stop at USAID. Across various sectors, Trump's policies were under judicial review, from immigration to environmental regulations, painting a picture of an administration at odds with both international norms and domestic legal frameworks. The discourse around these actions extended beyond policy into the realm of political philosophy, questioning the balance of power within the US government. Critics argued that Trump's approach was dangerously close to an executive overreach, while supporters saw it as a necessary correction to what they perceived as government overgrowth and inefficiency. In the international arena, the sanctions on the ICC officials were seen by some as a continuation of Trump's America First policy, prioritizing US interests and allies over international consensus. The move was likened to previous actions during his first term when he imposed sanctions on then ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda and another top official for investigating alleged US war crimes in Afghanistan. The global community's response was mixed. Some nations, particularly those with a history of conflict with the ICC like Russia and China, implicitly supported the move, seeing it as a check against what they also viewed as an overreaching international body. However, the majority of ICC member states, including many in Europe and Latin America, rallied in defense of the court, arguing that without it, the world would be a more dangerous place, where the powerful could act with impunity. The debate also sparked discussions on the future of international law and the balance between national sovereignty and global justice. Legal scholars, human rights advocates, and even some within the US government expressed concerns about the long-term impact of such actions, fearing it could set back decades of progress in international criminal justice. On the streets of The Hague, protests erupted, with banners declaring justice over politics and sanctions on war criminals, not judges. The Netherlands, hosting the ICC, expressed regret over Trump's order, emphasizing the court's crucial role in fighting impunity. "We will continue to support the ICC in its mandate to deliver justice where it is most needed," stated the Dutch Foreign Ministry. Back in the US, the political landscape was equally tumultuous. Congressional hearings were called to discuss the implications of the ICC sanctions, with Democrats and some Republicans questioning the wisdom and legality of the move. "This sets a dangerous precedent," warned a Democratic senator during one such hearing. "It tells the world that we are above the law, which we are not." Meanwhile, Trump's base rallied around the decision, viewing it as a defense of American interests against an international body seen as antagonistic. Social media was abuzz with both support and criticism, reflecting the polarized state of American politics. As night fell on this eventful day, the implications of Trump's actions were clear: a challenge to international norms, a test of domestic legal boundaries, and a stark reminder of the ongoing tug-of-war between national sovereignty and global accountability. The world watched, waited, and debated, knowing that the repercussions of these decisions would be felt for years to come, shaping not just US policy but the very framework of international justice and cooperation.